It's that time of year again. The long summer days are firmly behind us, replaced by the gloom of dreary autumn and winter. It's time to break out the winter kit and install some bike lights. Our expert testers have been running the rule over some of the latest front bike lights for road bikes, and these are the best models that we've tested so far in 2023. If you want a full list of all the best bike lights that we've tested over the past few years, check the link in the description after you've watched this video. The Lezyne Macro Drive 1400 Plus is not only one of our favourite road bike lights of 2023, it's one of the best ever. Lezyne has recently refreshed much of its light range with updated LEDs and optics, new body shapes, which it says helps with heat dissipation, new battery units, and a move from micro USB to USB-C recharging. Alleluia. On paper, the Macro Drive 1400 Plus is the third most powerful in the range, but in practice it packs all of the power most road riders will ever need and more without taking up too much space on your bars. It has a fairly focused beam but retains a decent amount of peripheral spread so you can spot roadside hazards. If you prefer a beam that doesn't suddenly drop off, then this is an absolutely brilliant option. Our testing revealed good battery burn times, almost bang on the money for the 3-hour claim Lezyne publishes for its most powerful mode, and it feels solidly made with a sturdy and secure bracket. As with most Lezyne lights, you can also remove the bracket entirely, replace it with a GoPro mount and fit it to your compatible out front mount, should you wish. We like that it's moved over to the latest USB-C charging standard, although Lezyne has chosen to not supply a charging cable with it. That's one of the few things that we can really criticize. Now, this may or may not bother you, but be prepared to buy one should you either not already have one or prefer to have one dedicated for it. The Magicshine Ray 2600B is a lumen powerhouse and is perfect for those rides where you're in the inky blackness of night or perhaps dabbling in a little gravel riding. It combines two high output LEDs, one with a focus beam and the other is more of a floodlight beam. When used together, we found that you could easily ride in excess of 30 kilometers per hour and have plenty of forewarning of obstacles to take avoiding action. The brightness of the light's modes can be customized in Magicshine's app, while the light also packs a remote and a built-in light sensor. So if you ride at night with no one around, and the Ray 2600B will up its brightness, when it detects an oncoming car's headlights, it will dip the beam to help save the retinas of the oncoming driver. Our testing revealed that this function worked really well, although prolonged use of the punchiest setting means that the light can drain its battery in just an hour and 15 minutes. In the end, as with many of the most powerful bike lights, we found that the 1250 lumen middle setting gave ample light in most cases while preserving burn time. It also features an auto stop-start function powered by a vibration sensor inside the light. We found that it was effective at switching the light off after the bike had been stopped for a period of time, but not so sensitive as to switch it off at a set of traffic lights, which is really good. We had quibbles with the app pairing process on which the Bluetooth remote and aforementioned sensors must be activated, while we also missed having a mode indicator on the light. Nevertheless, these small issues don't detract heavily from what is a very powerful, well-functioning front light. Now, if that Magicshine one was a lumen powerhouse, then the Exposure Toro Mark 14 harbours the power of a small sun. I jest, of course, but the Toro Mark 14 is certainly the most powerful front light, for road and gravel use at least, that we've tested this year. Interestingly though, our testing revealed that Exposure has spread the beam quite widely. This still offers plenty of focused punch, but it looks to use its power to illuminate more of the periphery. The downside to this is that the lower power modes can feel a little under-focused, but as the Toro Mark 14 carries a near bewildering array of settings, it's likely that you'll find one to suit your needs. Given the number of settings and the single button used to operate the light, it is a small bugbear that it doesn't have an app to ease the process. Remember, this is a light that costs a hefty 355 quid. That said, it's beautifully made and features something called Reflex Plus, which spools up the light's brightness to the full 3,600 lumens when you ride faster. All the better to see further down the road or gravel trail when you're moving at pace, and then it dials it back when you're riding more steadily. This mode doesn't respond to oncoming traffic though, so Reflex Plus is best left to unlit roads, paths and trails, while the 2,250 max lumens that you get from non-Reflex Plus modes is more than adequate for busier journeys. A large 10,200 mAh battery powers the light, and we saw runtimes broadly in line with what was etched on the tables shown on the underside. This gives a constant clear reminder of the remaining burn time, which is useful if you're trying to eke out the battery over the course of a ride. It's also handy that the display flips over if you run the light upside down under, say, an out front mount. Exposure doesn't use micro USB or USB-C standard charging, instead favouring its own rounded jack. When you own the light, of course, you'll get one and a transformer for it, but it's also pretty fair to say that we can't really see what's wrong with speccing USB-C. If you're playing with a more modest budget, but you still want a good quality, high output light, the Oxford Ultratorch packs a punch. For £70, the Ultratorch emits up to 1,600 lumens, which is more than enough to shine the way on an unlit road while moving at speed. We found the beam pattern a little diffused compared to some of the other lights that we've tested this year, lacking the kind of focus central section that many might expect. But the upside to this is that there's decent peripheral vision delivered by the 3 LEDs. The light doesn't see the longest run times, just 1 hour on the highest power mode, but that shouldn't matter if your commutes aren't too long or if you're willing to charge it regularly. Speaking of which, the Ultratorch CL1600 uses the older model micro USB charge port as opposed to newer USB-C ones. Next to it is a little surprise in the form of a USB-A port, which allows you to use a power bank. Oxford has got the core usability boxes ticked here though. It's easy to switch modes thanks to the toggle switch, and the relatively large display on top offers a bar display for remaining charge, and it shows you the mode that you're in. We also think the bracket makes light work of removing and fitting the light. It does vibrate a little more than some others when mounted, but in reality it didn't affect visibility all that much. The IPX4 ingress protection ratings, that's the 4 you need to pay attention to for waterproofness, signifies that it will survive in the rain, which is just about all most of us need anyway. The light takes up a decent chunk of real estate on the bars, but it's an acceptable concession in an option that's priced so keenly. The Ravemen LR 1600 is a small form factor light with just 1 LED, but it still manages to produce 1600 lumens. The beam is broad and bright for such a narrow unit, offering strong general forward illumination in the most powerful setting. The beam doesn't offer the best peripheral vision, but that's to be expected in a design like this. It delivers up to 1.5 hours runtime, which is impressive when you consider the size of the unit. Normally, remotes are reserved for the most powerful, often larger bike lights, but the Ravemen LR 1600 includes one. This is powered by a coin cell battery and features lights in the buttons to help you find them in the dark. Compared to using the single button on top of the light to cycle through modes, the remote brings the handy ability to toggle between them. It also can be used as a shortcut for a full and dipped beam. We found the one flashing mode on offer a little limiting, but there's also an intelligent mode which uses an ambient light sensor to detect low light conditions. When it does, it puts the light in a lower power mode just to help save glare for those coming towards you. The light can also sense when it's been stationary for 2 minutes, upon which it will switch the light off and go into standby mode. Move the light again and it switches back on. Such modes are really handy if you're prone to leaving your bike light on by accident. It sounds like an odd thing to do, but it can happen. The LR1600 charges via USB-C, and Ravemen says that you can plug in an external power pack to increase the range. The NiteRider Lumina Max 1500 has some nifty features that make it worth considering. The user interface on top of the light is slick with dual direction mode control. Instead of a basic cyclical setup, you simply toggle up and down for the brightness that you need in a given moment. At its maximum setting of the 5 constant modes on offer, this light will put out 1500 lumens with a rounded beam. This features one very clear and prominent central focus beam and a surrounding halo that floodlights the periphery. This too has a definite edge to it, although as your eye tracks as you move forward, it's not as obvious as our beam shots suggest. 3 flashing modes exist on a separate menu, which we found useful at night. It's incredibly annoying when a misplaced press can switch you to a flash mode when you're relying on the beam to see where you're going. So we like to see this. The light is quite chunky, but it mounts securely to the supplied bracket and stayed put in testing. The bracket has a screw down bolt which doesn't come apart from the light, which makes the worry of losing parts almost redundant. Although some of us feel the NiteRider Lumina Max 1500 looks a little old-fashioned, charging is performed using the latest USB-C standard. NiteRider also goes the whole hog and provides a power adapter instead of the USB-C cable on its own. So, those are 6 of the best front lights for road and gravel that we've tested in 2023. While scores vary between them, each have plus points in their own right. If power is your thing, then look to the Exposure, Toro and Magicshine Ray lights. If power blended with a smaller size is more your cup of tea, then the Lezyne Macro Drive and Ravemen LR each have something to offer. Meanwhile, the NiteRider Lumina Max is a solid light all round, and the Oxford Ultratorch offers good power for relatively little cash. But what do you think? Is there a light missing that you've come to trust and you want to tell us about? We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Don't forget, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see our guide to buying a front light, click just up here. Don't forget to subscribe and we'll see you next time.